the DX5 Rugged radio from Spectrum. How is it? We're going to go ahead and go over it and find out. So far, I do like it. This is a short-term review. I'll do a long-term review somewhere down the road once I've got a lot of usage on it. There are a lot of things I do like about it. There are some things that I don't like about it. The first thing I'm going to go over is the packaging. Now, the FlySky GT5, from what I can remember, it came in a box that had styrofoam. Didn't have all the box art as this does, but to me it felt like the GT5 from FlySky, it felt like FlySky really cares about their product. When I got this radio, we're just going to open up the box and show you guys how it came. Of course, you got a little, I guess that's a quick start guide, but it came in this, and that's basically how it looked when I got it. I personally would have liked to see better packaging for this radio. I honestly would. Doesn't feel like Spectrum really, or Horizon Hobbies as I should say, really care about their product like FlySky did when they put their radio in like styrofoam. And then one more important thing I want to, well, it's not that important, but it is important. It says that this is, where is it at? It says it's water resistant. If it's water resistant, that doesn't mean you can throw it in mud and water, in my opinion. That just means it can handle splashes. So I think by them saying that it's water resistant, it's kind of misleading when you put that on, that radio covered in mud. That's telling me that, hey, I can throw it in the mud and water, but it says water resistant. Yeah, we'll put that off to the side. It did come with this instruction manual. It comes in many different languages, and it goes over everything that you need to know, like steering mixing for your four-wheel steering, your dual rates, which I do need to go over one little issue that I couldn't quite figure out for how they label your endpoints. But as you can see, it does have a lot of rubberized padding on it. The steering wheel feels pretty nice. Kind of like how it almost has the Niddle Trail Grappler look. Does have a thumb extension there, which is good for you guys that do nothing but one-hand driving. There are guys out there that drive one-handed. Of course I do, because I record everything myself. One thing I wish is this. I wish they had a little more space in there. That would have been more useful for more batteries. I don't really see myself using that four-way too much. I usually bring my full extended wrench for tire duties. this right here is pretty good. I found that myself holding on to this when I'm bringing my case of camera gear, so that's nice. The handle feels pretty good in my hand. One thing I did notice, even though this is supposed to be non-slip right here, I do believe I will be getting some like grip tape to put around this handle, because I found when my hand is sweating from a hot day that my hand does tend to slip. So that's one thing I'll be doing. The trigger, it's got a nice firmness to it. Not too firm to where it's like, oh my god, but it's not mushy. It is, I love the trigger, the resistance behind the trigger, and I also like it in the steering. The steering has some firmness to it, and I absolutely love that. Let me grab something right quick. I meant to grab this just to show this part off. The battery box. I'm actually going to be carrying something like this with me from now on, because it is such a snug fit in there. As you can see, I'm having a hard time getting the battery out. That's how you get you a flathead or something to help you out with that. I have not seen where, let me show it, because of how that curves up right there when you go to put your batteries in. It is a little bit of a pain in the butt, but I like the Fly Sky, and I'm going to be comparing this to the Fly Sky because this is $250 compared to $63 to $70 where you get it. This doesn't have a way to hook a LiPo battery up like the Fly Sky. The Fly Sky has a JST port. This doesn't have any kind of port that I can see to put a LiPo battery in it. So it is recommended that you guys get rechargeable batteries. As you can see, there are a lot of different buttons. Some of these are for your trim, some of these are for your throttle. You can adjust your drag brake with it. You got a couple of buttons down here to assign. This one right here where my thumb is, that's just a monetary, one button, and these just kind of push back and forth. These push back and forth, and that one pushes down and back and forth. That one does not, back and forth. That one does not, but back and forth. And then you've got your power button. So we're going to turn that on for a second. And then I want to show you guys the receivers. Well, this one's a 3-channel or 1-channel, however you want to put it. But one thing I do love about these receivers is, let's see if I can, there is a button where that logo is. You hit that button and it is put into a bind mode, which is awesome. No more bind plugs. Those you accumulate so many bind plugs every time you buy a new receiver. So that is an awesome thing. But going into the radio to bind it, we'll get into that in a moment. I did not ever see if anything about these receivers being waterproof, so do take precautions if you're going to run it through water. One of the things I found that I don't like, and I kind of wish it was like the old DX5 I used to have a long time ago. I wish it actually had a turn dial instead of a touchpad, because this touchpad can be a little touchy. I can see that being an issue if it rains. Think about your smartphones. You start touching it on your smartphone in the rain, and it just, you can't do jack with it. I see that being an issue with that touchpad. So one thing I've found to be easy is I'll actually go like this, and that makes it easier to scroll without any mishaps. It does tell you how much battery power you got on your batteries. Like right now, these have 4.7 volts or amps, whatever you want to call it. I'm not an expert, guys. But it does let you know where your batteries are in here, which you can actually set up in here when you want that warning to go off to let you know, hey, your batteries are low. Let's just go in. So you have your main menu. You have your model select, model name, travel, subtram, reverse, speed, rates, exponential, timer, bind / frame, mixing, AVC, trim setup, auxiliary assignment, telemetry, settings, and utilities. It's got a lot more than the FlySky has. For the most part, it is, and there it goes. I was scrolling up and it kind of went into that. So let's go back. For the most part, it's easy to use. You just got to get used to the touchpad. To bind this radio, what you're going to do is you're going to go to, oh, come on. And there it goes. That touchpad is so touchy, and that's the main thing. That's why I want the turn dial instead of the touchpad. But you'll go into bind and frame. Okay. And then it will, even though this one is already assigned, it will go to that, and you'll scroll down to where it says bind. You'll hit the button on the receiver first, then you'll hit bind on this, and it literally does not take long. It's like a few seconds. It's fast. So that's that. Now, if you're setting your endpoints, where's it at? Okay. If you're setting your endpoints, and if you're not familiar with what I'm saying, is I'm basically saying how far are you allowing your steering servos, your dig servos, whatever kind of servos, how far are you letting them go? And instead of like in my FlySky it was EPA, and this one it's travel. Travel is how you set up how much EPA you put into it. That's how you set up your servos. It took me a minute to figure it out. I couldn't quite understand some of the instructions. I actually had to go in and look that up. So that's how you set your endpoints. You can set up the speed of everything from your motor all the way to your servos. I had actually in one video, or not, well, you probably see it, but I had turned the speed down on the throttle. I had it turned down to where I had no wheel speed, so you can adjust basically how much speed you have coming out of that motor, which is awesome, including your drag brake. Everything else is pretty much the same as most radios. You have your mixing, which is for you four-wheel steer guys. You can mix how you went to set up for a 4-wheel steer, I believe. Let me just make sure. Yep, that's pretty much for your 4-wheel steer. Let's say like I've got dig on my Capra. On tree limit, I've got a servo, or not a servo. Of course, it's got a servo. It's got a servo winch. There we go. It's got a servo winch. So what you do whenever you have accessories like that, you just go into auxiliary assign. I'm going to try to do this through the, and then you can go in and assign what you want. So you go in, you choose what your, since this one only has one auxiliary, so I'll just go to auxiliary 1. If you got 2 auxiliaries, then you go to 2 or 3. Then you put it on what input you want it on. So you can put it on any one of these inputs, and then so right now it's set up for E, F. You can set up for whatever, and then you can go and you want to go to the cyclic and put it as active, and then you have your, it says monetary, active, inhibit. So anytime you want that, whatever button you assign to do a certain job, you always make sure it's active. And then you have like a 3-position mode. Let me go through here, and then it says linear, and then you have, it shows you steps. That I'm not very familiar with. I don't want to speak on that. If I don't know, I don't know. But you have linear and you can go as low as 2 position up to 3. And then, like I said, I don't know what linear is, so I'm going to clear that and we'll back out of that. Let's see, settings. That's where you can go in and adjust your display. Like I've literally put Kel's RC in my radio. You can put your name in this radio. It has, I've turned most of the sounds off. It has an about, calibrate, battery, touch. You can set up the touch, how it vibrates. And then you go to utilities, and it just, all it says is confirm system menu access. I'm not going to mess with that. But overall, so far, I like this radio. The latency, it's right now. It's quick. Now I can kind of pull the trigger like that a little bit more, and it'll blip it just a little bit. Like on my Fly Sky, I couldn't blip it like that. I had to literally pull the trigger like that on the Fly Sky to blip it, but I can just go like that, and it does change up how you drive a little bit. It does help out a little bit. Other than the few things that I've mentioned, it has been pretty good. Unfortunately, it is $259 when I bought it. The 1-channel radio, or 3-channel, whatever you want to call it. The guy up at the shop was calling this one 1-channel. I think it's more of a 3-channel, but this one was, let's see, the SR215, I think. The Capra and tree limit had the 2. I can find it on here, can I? Nope. Oh, the SR515. is what I've gotten them. Those are, I believe, 5-channel radios, but that's because I've got dig and a winch, like I said, and those were like 60 bucks. This one was like 30. So if you're looking to switch over to this radio, it is going to be quite expensive. One thing that's kind of a letdown, and we're going to be comparing it to the FlySky again. The FlySky, you can get repair parts. The steering wheel, trigger, new screen, all kind, and that's across FlySky's lineup. I could not find any repair parts for this, so I've got one of two choices if anything were to ever happen to this. I would have to send it into Spectrum themselves, or I'd have to buy a whole new radio. So that right there, in my opinion, is the biggest downfall of this radio. I have found, other accessories that you can put on this 3D printable stuff, so that's, I guess, a plus. I forgot to mention, it does have 2 spots to put a lanyard on, but I wouldn't trust this one. That one's kind of rubbery. I would put it right there. So, but overall, I'm liking the radio so far, and like I said, I will do a long-term review on it when the time is right, and if they're still making this radio. So hope this video helps you guys out. Like, subscribe, catch you on the flip side.